This certainly is a first for me, and I apologize that I can't be in person with all of you. I never envisioned I'd be giving my homily via a recording, but unfortunately, a couple of days ago, I came down with COVID, and my doctor wants me to stay in isolation. I'm definitely on the recovery end of it right now, but I didn't want to bounce the homily to one of the other priests or deacons, and out of abundance of caution and kindness to all of you, I'll be staying in the rectory for the next few days. I'm actually here in the chapel. Father Jay is our cameraman. He's all masked up, but we're just trying to be very, very careful. And I do want to thank all of you for your prayers. Please pray that this COVID gets out of my system as soon as possible. I never envisioned this would happen after 3 years of dealing with all of this. But nonetheless, it's the cross I carry right now. And I'm happy to share with you my 3 points for the homily for this weekend. And the first one comes from a suggestion that several of you made, but in particular, I remember in Kathy Ingrassi, one of our parishioners who often gives talks here at our parish, and she was telling me about this documentary or the series on Jesus called The Chosen. And she recommended it a while ago, and other friends were recommending it to me, and I never really bothered to really watch it because I love Franco Zeffirelli's version of Jesus of Nazareth. As we all know, the gospel is really the most important part of the Bible. The story of Jesus is dear to all of our hearts. And I always loved that 8-hour-long movie that Zeffirelli made that came out in the late 70s, and was 1 hour each Sunday night, and we would see it. And over the years, I've watched it so many times. I've just loved the way he depicts Jesus and all of his followers. So when I heard there was this new modern version of the gospel story, I was like, no, I don't want to hear it. And because Zeffirelli had been also helpful to me in making my own movie, and I'll talk more about that later, that I didn't want to really, bother. I didn't really feel I had the time. What a mistake. I wish I had started watching it sooner. I absolutely love The Chosen. It's run by this guy called Dallas Jenkins, and it's the story of Jesus, so we all know, but he has so many unique and interesting angles. If you have not seen it, I encourage you to watch a couple of episodes. The first one I found was a little bit difficult, but by the second or third, you really get caught up in it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because in The Chosen, what Dallas Jenkins does is really shows that friendship between Jesus and Lazarus, that really at the heart of today's gospel. And you see them as little children. They're actually kind of playing together, and they're kind of little roughhousing as little boys will do. And a little bit later in life, they're kind of throwing this ball around, this game with their friends. And it shows how much they really enjoyed each other's company and presence. And I've always thought about friendship with Christ as being so important. And as I know I've shared with Father Jay and Sammy as they do their youth ministry, an inspiration for me always came from Benedict XVI when working with young people, where he said the greatest gift we can give to young people, the next generation, is to introduce them to friendship with Christ. It's really at the heart of our Christian life. And so that idea of friendship with Christ is really the heart of my first point in my homily here tonight with all of you. It's a gift that will get us through everything in life, the ups, the downs, the twists, and the turns. There's nothing sweeter, nothing more important than our own personal, individual friendship with Christ. So this leads me to my second point, because in today's gospel, it's all about Christ, who loved his friend so much, and he gives his friend this incredible gift, this gift of the resurrection of the body, the resurrection from the dead. And as you've heard me say over the past many Easters that we've celebrated together, I firmly believe that the resurrection is the most radiant reality that we live as Christians. And you'll find that next week we're going to start Holy Week, but this episode in Jesus' life where he raises Lazarus from the dead, it's kind of like the culmination, the high point of all of the miracles that he performed. And so this reality of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the resurrection that Jesus performed for his friend Lazarus, is also about our ultimate resurrection, because all of us who have been baptized into Christ, who have been baptized into his life, his death, but above all, his resurrection. And may this truth of the resurrection be the strong foundation of all of our lives, especially when times get difficult. And this leads me to my third and final point. The reality that at times life is difficult. At times we do lose loved ones that were very near and dear to us. As we priests often joke, a joke, but based in reality. Basically, November to April is kind of like funeral season. And then May to October is kind of wedding season, where one thing goes up at one time, one goes up at the other time. But this reality that we're still in the funeral season of the year has really hit home to me. A number of my friends, really close, dear, intimate friends, have lost their parents over the last few months. And as I've been celebrating these funeral masses, I recognize, I thank God that my parents, both my parents are still alive, but how fragile life is and how quickly life can end here on earth. And yet it's not the ultimate reality of our lives. And yes, we do cry. And I've always found John's Gospel 11, verse 35, the shortest part of the Bible. If you ever wanted to memorize one part of Scripture, 11:35 from John's Gospel, and Jesus wept. And so we weep too when loved ones die, and we miss them, and it's sad. But we don't let that sadness overcome, because we know, as I said, that Jesus, as he triumphed over sin and death, so too all of us, incorporated into him through our baptism, will eventually triumph over sin and death. So joy is the ultimate message of the Christian gospel. And so what I want us to do for this week is to hold on to that reality of the friendship that Christ wants each one of us to have with him, and the ultimate gift that he gives as friend to friend, that gift of everlasting life. And that should fill us with joy, should fill us with peace, especially when we're dealing with loved ones who have gone before us. That we know, while it may be sad for us that they are gone, we know that they are now beginning to experience that everlasting life, that joy of light, happiness, and peace. And if I could just conclude my homily with one piece of joy to share with all of you. As I mentioned to you before, Franco Zeffirelli was a great inspiration to me. My own movie, which has taken me 25 years to bring to fruition, will finally premiere on April 27th in Ridgewood. There'll be more information to come pretty soon, but I wanted to share with you that Trinity's Triumph, this quarter of a century long project I'm working on to try to bring the Christian message to the modern world, is finally coming to fruition. And I want to thank all of you. So many of you were extras in the movie. You lent your cars. You helped in so many different ways to help us make this become a reality. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And finally, know that while I'm on my little quarantine over here, I'll be praying for all of you, and I ask you to do the same for me. God bless you.